Good morning, everybody. We do not have the little things that Dave has where we can who let the dogs out and all of that because Dave is off today. He is off for vacation, a very much deserved vacation, to be honest. But we are here. I'm joined by Caleb Calhoun. I'm Amanda LaFratta, and we are talking everything Tennessee, just Tennessee in general, and everything college sports. So, Caleb, let's start off with the very upsetting news about Coach Mike Leach coming out today. I know that I was glued to Twitter last night after it was announced that he was in a dire situation. And I think what we know so far is that he was life flighted to a hospital with a massive heart attack, is what I'm seeing reported. And it doesn't look good from what I understand. What have you seen, Caleb?
Yeah, I haven't. I didn't even see the heart attack part, and I was searching, drastically throughout Twitter. Um, but I mean that's an awful story. Obviously, if he had a heart attack, you never think about it because we haven't. It's kind of shocking, if I'm going to be honest with you, that we haven't seen a more high profile coaches have something like that. It's such a stressful job. You're working 16 hours a day during the season. Um, and it's just an awful thing to think about. And such a character like Mike Leach too was so good for college football, was so good for the state of Mississippi. I thought, was just the SEC needed that type of offense for entertainment and that type of personality. You could ask. My favorite thing about Mike Leach is you can ask him any question and he'll answer it. He'll answer any question you ask, no matter what it is.
I know he's great. That is the only time I've ever fangirled, ever. We were at the SEC media days and everyone was like, are you gonna interview Nick Saban? Are you gonna what? And I was like, no, like I really don't care. But I saw Mike Leach and I couldn't go up and say anything to him. I was just like standing this far away. And I told my husband, I was like, David, it's Mike Leach. Oh my gosh, like I can't believe it's Mike Leach. He's like right there. And I should have said something or interviewed him. I just kind of awkwardly stared from from a corner of the room. Just somebody else was interviewing him and I was just like a weirdo in the corner. So it was definitely interesting, but he is one of the best characters in all of college football, like hands down, one of the best. And I really hate it. Prayers for his family, prayers for those that love him. It's been, I know everybody is on kind of waiting to hear about what's going on. And I saw a quote by Lane Kiffin that it was someone had interviewed him and he just, like Brittany said, gives the best interviews. Yes, Mike Leach gives the best interviews, hands down. But I saw a quote by Lane Kiffin that was taken down because it was in kind of him going, he was the best, he was this, he was that. And people took that with, they kind of ran with it like as he'd already passed or something like that. And I know there's conflicting reports out there from people saying that he already passed. But that's not been that has not been said by anybody with, basically the real blue check mark. So I'm hoping that's not the case, and I am hoping for a full recovery and praying really hard for Mike Leach because he is again one of my favorite people in this industry, like hands down.
Yeah, and you hate to do this, but I mean, I just kind of want to look back on like really intriguing career by Mike Leach, honestly. One of the more intriguing ones in coaching. My first knowledge of him was when he was offensive coordinator at Kentucky. And by the way, for a Tennessee tie, everybody, Mike Leach was Josh Heupel's offensive coordinator the first year Heupel played at Oklahoma in '99.
Yep.
The next year, when they won the national title, Mark Mangino was the offensive coordinator. But Leach was the first one. But here's a guy who he was high. He had been a total under the radar coach. You know, we're talking after graduating from BYU, was at Cal Poly, College of the Desert, Iowa Wesleyan, Valdosta State. I mean, just random schools. And then in 1997, Hal Mumme brings him in to um, to so they can install their air raid together. Hal Mumme was kind of the original old school architect of the air raid offense. And the idea was that this was how Kentucky could compete in the SEC. And, you know, Mike Leach is coaching Tim Couch. He and Peyton Manning have one of the most epic shootouts in 97. And then in 98, Kentucky gets to a bowl with Mike Leach. That's when he goes to Oklahoma in 99. And then in 2000, he takes over at Texas Tech. And after a few, and then that's when the numbers just go through the roof. It was a few years before things really, really took off. But, you know, Cliff Kingsbury was one of his quarterbacks at that time. And as he did with Washington State, by like year 5, you know, Texas Tech was a fixture in the top 25 every year. And just so people understand, Texas Tech doesn't do that. They're nowhere. You know, we talk about how Texas A&M is not on Texas's level. Texas Tech is not on. I don't think it's on TCU's or even maybe SMU's level. They're lucky to be in a Power 5 conference, honestly, because they shouldn't be.
Yeah, Texas Tech is not good. So I want to ask you, Caleb, out of all the Mike Leach like interviews you've ever seen, what is your favorite?
Ooh, okay. My favorite is, and actually, this is funny because I disagreed with him on this, but he made the case for an expanded playoff one year, and he got very sarcastic about college football thinking they're too sophisticated for a playoff when everybody from your local city park football league has a playoff all the way up to the NFL. And that was my favorite interview. My favorite Mike Leach moment is the locker room moment in 2009 that someone captured on footage where he laid into his Texas Tech team after a win, after they beat Baylor, and he just laid into them. It's very expletive raced, but it was hilarious.
Yes. So one of my favorite interviews by Mike Leach was when he was talking about, God, I can't even remember where he was, but he was talking about an offensive lineman, like take one of our offensive linemen and put him against one of his defensive linemen. And I know I'm botching it right now because I can't even remember it, but he was like, that guy would like make an oil stain where our guy was standing. I mean, he went into a whole thing, and he's just hilarious.
He is.
He is top notch. The person that about going to having fall weddings and eloping and all that stuff. Like I love Mike Leach. Orange Blood saying, yeah, the eloping one.
That was one of the best ones.
Yeah. I love his rant on which mascots would win in a fight and the wedding planning rant. Yes, the wedding planning. That's what I got married in January and for a reason. Like that was, I was like, I'm not doing it. I had to move it up because my sister was actually pregnant and it wouldn't have worked, but it was originally February. But I was like, I'm not doing it during football season. Like I'm just not college football season because I don't believe in it and I hate it when other people do it. No offense to everybody else.
It drives me crazy. We got married in Memphis because that's where we're from, and my wife didn't want a long engagement, so I'm like, then we have to get married before the season. So we got married in August in Memphis, which is a brutally hot place, and we took pictures outside, but it was worth it to not have football season, to not miss football season.
I know. How did you not melt?
I mean, I almost did, and it was such a busy wedding morning that I didn't even like eat until like the wedding, like right before the wedding. So I was about to pass out when we were out in the heat. And we had a photographer who, for some reason, is immune to heat. So I'm like, can we not take some pictures inside? And yeah, it drove me crazy. But yeah, the eloping one with Mike Leach is great. One of the other ones that I loved was again, some of these like people would find offensive now, but it's still hilarious when he says it because he said it was that 2009 year again. I think Texas Tech. I think they lost to Texas A&M. But when he said, "We got a bunch of kids who are more interested in their fat little girlfriends than winning games," and then
I love that. Eating fish sandwiches with their fat girlfriends.
yes,
Oh, I love that.
you
Oh,
know he he also said, for all the men out there, he said the wisest thing of all time on Twitter, and it's the truest thing, which he said, men looking for women, stop going to bars, go to Target. The ratio is 3-1, and women are always already looking for things they don't need in Target.
yeah, that's the truth. Like that is hands down the truth. That's why I don't go to Target, because I don't need anything in Target. I don't want anything in Target. Leave me, like, no, do not put me in Target, because it's a bad idea. You never come out spending less than $200, and it's all stuff that you don't need. I mean, it
Yeah.
literally is all stuff that you don't need.
And even if you did go to Target to get something you needed, you'll come out spending $200 and you will have forgotten to get the thing you needed.
Oh god, it happens every time. Like you will have brand new decor for a room, but forgot the paper towels, I swear. So Brittany saying her favorite interview was when he gave the wedding advice, and he told his kids to elope and that he would pay them to do it. But her favorite moment was him folding the chairs up and throwing them down on the sidelines. Yeah. I love that part when he said they didn't even deserve to sit Mississippi State this past season. And he just folded up all the chairs and threw them down. Like, he is just he is a national treasure. Like, he really is. And I was devastated when I heard that news. Like, absolutely devastated.
And let's not forget that Tennessee came very close to hiring him, and had Philip Fulmer not launched a coup, kind of for himself, then he would have been at Tennessee in 2018 over Jeremy Pruitt. Don't necessarily, to be fair to everybody, it's John Curry's fault, who was the athletic director at the time, that Tennessee didn't lure Leach, because he should have been talking to Mike Leach a lot earlier than he was. That was a desperation hire after he tried to sneak Greg Schiano through the back door a week earlier. And so that's more John Curry's fault than Fulmer's fault. But Fulmer saw an opening, cashed in, wanted to make his own hire, and it was not going to be Mike Leach, because Philip Fulmer has openly said he doesn't believe in that type of offense, that type of system, or anything like that. So, you always wonder what it would have been like by this point with Mike Leach at Tennessee, and so if anything, it would have been entertaining.
I know. It's hard. It's hard for any fan. And you look at if you look at Twitter or wherever, I mean, you have fans everywhere going, even Ole Miss fans coming out and going, like, pray for Mike Leach. Like, we really, not saying that's just a wild take, but there's not a lot of coaches that would get that kind of, other fans going really hard. Like, he's such a good dude. He's this, he's that. But Mike Leach is definitely a fan favorite for a lot of people, and it's hard. I have problems rooting against Mississippi State just because Mike Leach is there.
Right.
Because
No,
I love
I agree. It's it kind of reminds me of, I mean, even though I cover them now, I grew up a Tennessee fan, and so I guess I should put that out there. But when in the 90s, when the Tennessee-Florida rivalry was so explosive, we all loved to hate Steve Spurrier, but quite honestly, we all hated it when he left the SEC. It was like, however, even if he took shots at your school, and I think we all were victims of Steve Spurrier to a certain degree if we're fans of other schools. But Tennessee was the biggest, but gosh, he was so much fun, in the SEC, and the SEC needed him, and you feel that way about Mike Leach. And Mike Leach doesn't take shots at other schools, really. He just says funny things. And so it's oh yeah, that's right. Brittany just posted Mississippi State did lose a lineman this year, right? He passed away.
I feel like I remember something about that, but again, my state of mind is not the best right now.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Yes, Sam Westmoreland, it was 18 years old, has passed away in the middle of October. So it's, just a rough year for Mississippi State. You were we were I think we were all hoping that Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin would stay at Mississippi State and Ole Miss forever, because that would just make college football in Mississippi it'd make it the coolest spot ever for college football, because whatever you feel about Lane Kiffin, he's entertaining. And we know Mike Leach is. I don't blame Deion Sanders for taking the Colorado job, but him at Jackson State just made the whole state more entertaining. And so, I mean, those three, and we're going to look back and be like, those three were all in Mississippi for a 2-year period. That's incredible. It's just an awful story.
It really is. And I think that's probably I don't know if it's just the most important time in Mississippi football history, I believe, is we had, Deion Sanders, we had Mike Leach, and we had Lane Kiffin all there at once. So as far as Mississippi football goes, that's probably going to be their best years ever. But just, again, praying Mike Leach pulls through. So, Caleb, let's move on for that. Let's go to looking at, it's officially bowl season.
It is.
Which, does it matter anymore? I don't know.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I think when the playoffs started, 8 years ago now, I guess they made the decision 10 years ago, Nick Saban, I don't think Nick Saban's right on everything, but he called this like a prophet, where he said the bowl season and a playoff will never be able to coexist, because the more you add playoff games, the more irrelevant you make the bowl games. And just so people understand, this actually, the playoff was a natural outgrowth of the BCS. I want to be fair here, because if you remember, Amanda, the first 8 years of the BCS, one of the BCS bowls would alternate to be the national championship game. And then in 2006, they decided all 4 BCS bowl games are consolation games, and then we'll have a separate national championship game. And that started in 2006, which automatically kind of devalued those bowls to a certain degree. So they don't matter as much. I think once you started the playoff, this is why you had to expand the playoff. It was really the only option, because the bowl games are now less relevant. So to make them more relevant, you kind of have to expand the playoff and make the bowl games part of it. And yeah, there will only be 6 bowl games part of the playoff in 2 years. But quite honestly, up until the 1980s, there were only 6 bowl games people cared about anyway. So it's kind of like a return to tradition. And I like watching the bowl games. I like betting on them. They're fun. You'll have seen the Mountain West and Conference USA 6-6 teams play it out in some bowl in the Bahamas every now and then. But yeah, this is not going to generate national coverage anymore. And so
no.
I think that's just the nature of what it is. But let's just be honest. We all thought there were too many bowl games to begin with, and that most of them should be generating national coverage. So I think it's a win-win, because at least more bowl games are going to matter, and these other teams can play in these meaningless bowl games, and national media doesn't have to care about it, but it's more football for us to entertain ourselves with.
Yes. So I think for today's tough question, where I want to go is, how do you feel about players sitting out bowl games now that the NIL is in effect? Like, do you think that they should be able to sit out those bowl games?
Well, I mean, there's no stopping them if they choose to, but
of course.
I think I have no problem with it. I think they should, if they're focusing on the NFL draft, I got no problem with it. And quite honestly, now I will say this again, you're right. NIL throws a factor. I think it's still their prerogative if they think they'll make more money in the bowl or not. I got no problem with them looking out for themselves. Quite honestly, if they're going to the NFL, I think if you're a program, if you're not in a meaningful bowl game, if you're not in a playoff game, and I think as a program, you'd rather that player sit out, because you'd rather get the extra practice, because they're going to the pros anyway. You'd rather the extra practices be with the person that might be their replacement next year to get the first team reps in December. You can see what they could do in real time in a game. So quite honestly, I think that you're doing yourself a favor, but I also think you're doing your team a favor. I think unless you need to improve your draft stock, I think there's neither side really gains from a player. Like if Jalen Hyatt's going to the pros, and again, he hasn't really made his decision yet. He's 50-50. But if he decides to go to the NFL, I don't think he does Tennessee any favors coming back to play in the bowl game. I think it's better for both sides if he goes to focus on the draft. And also Tennessee can then, implement Squirrel White and see how he does in the slot. So that's my thoughts on it.
So I completely disagree with you.
What?
I know, shocking. I think that Tennessee Junior said you're quitting on your team, period. I agree with that. I think that now I could understand before when there was you weren't making any money, or quote unquote weren't making any money during like the college season or whatever, and that you wanted to basically save your body and not risk it on a game that didn't matter. In the climate of the NIL, you're making money now. You're now officially an employee. This is your job. You play in the bowl game because that is your job. You've signed NIL stuff. You've gotten this far with that. You should play in the bowl games. Like you should. That this is a part of your job. So I don't agree. I never agreed with people sitting out bowl games. I understood it though. I understood, okay, this game means nothing. You can sit it out. But then in the middle of the season when you're playing you're playing Austin Peay or you're playing whoever, that game probably means nothing and you're not going to lose it, but you still play it. So I don't think so. Yes. How
okay, so you have to remember this. If it's the middle of the season, you're still playing for draft stock if you're a player. The bowl season, again, most seniors will play in the bowl because the bowl is you're fighting so hard for a spot in the NFL draft. It's very few players that have a draft spot locked up, honestly. And so I would also break with the idea that they're employees. I would more call them independent contractors because it's not like they're being like
same. If you're an independent contractor and you decide one day you're not going to come to work because it's in your best interest, you're not going to finish this project that you started. So it's in your best interest because you got a better deal. You're not going to be an independent contractor for long.
My question is, who's harmed by the players doing this? Like I said, I think the program would prefer it because they can work with the backups that they know they're going to have to work for next year. If it's a meaningless bowl game, not if it's a college football playoff game.
But you're telling me Alabama's playing in the Sugar Bowl against Kansas State. They would rather play without Bryce Young and Will Anderson?
Yes.
I do.
No. I absolutely do. Nick Saban needs to worry about, first of all, Nick Saban, if anybody needs to give his backup quarterback some first team reps, it's Alabama. And I'm going to give everybody a little bit of history lesson on here. Dave and I have talked about this in the past. The reason Tennessee football won the 1998 national championship, and nobody knows this. Actually, a lot of people know this, but it's not talked about a lot. After the 97 SEC championship that Peyton Manning won, Peyton Manning hurt his knee. Peyton Manning, honestly, he wanted to go for the national championship game. They started him. It's his final game. You start your senior quarterback, who's your greatest player ever, obviously, for a national title game. But he was not healthy, and so he didn't practice with the team the whole month of December. Team Martin took all the first team reps. And it's well documented that taking those reps in December for a national championship game was probably the biggest factor in making sure Team Martin was ready to go at the start of the 98 season. And without those reps, they probably don't win those first two games at Syracuse in Florida, where Martin played like he wasn't great in those games, but he was a veteran and calm in the final minutes. And I think those extra reps in December are huge for backups. So yeah, Will Anderson and Bryce Young. So I bring that to Bryce Young. Let's be honest. You probably don't believe in Jalen Milroe. I don't believe in Jalen Milroe either.
God, no.
But it may be irrelevant because Nick Saban's quarterback may not even be on the roster for next year right now. But if you're going to have a battle in the spring, you at least would like to get a head start on it right now. And that's where Jalen Milroe comes into play, just to see what he can do.
I think with Alabama, I think Ty Simpson's going to get the nod over Jalen Milroe because we've seen Jalen Milroe and it is not, it's not pretty. It's not,
I agree.
I mean, I feel like Jalen Milroe and Joe Milton are similar creatures. I would compare them a lot. I think they both have strong arms. I think that they tend to overthrow people. I think that they don't make the best decisions in games. I feel that. But I do not think, I think if you are any team, you want Will Anderson and you want Bryce Young to play because Alabama has plenty of time. You have plenty of time to work those quarterbacks out. You've tons of time. You have at least like 8 months to figure out who you got. And if you're playing against a defense, you want it to be a really good defense. So your practice is going to be, I think, more beneficial to you as a quarterback than another team because your defense is a lot better than Kansas State's. But I feel like you want to go out and win the bowl game. I think everybody does. I mean, I understand it's not the playoffs, and for a lot of Alabama fans, that's disappointing and yada, yada, yada. But you want your best players to play in those games because you want to dominate them if you can. I don't think you just want to put a newbie in there and have, Kansas State being, we beat Bama for the next 25 years.
Okay, but that doesn't, let's think about it this way. Because this also depends on the program itself. Bama's not hurt by it if they lose. Nick Saban's at Alabama. Nick Saban's going to get the number one recruiting classes every year, no matter what. Now, K-State, it may mean something to them because if they can sell we beat Bama, they can go back home. And actually, to be fair, this may be crucial to Tennessee too. And Dave and I talked about this. This is why the Tennessee-Clemson game is actually a bigger game than usual. But to Alabama's point, Alabama, if they lose a bowl game, that's not going to hurt them in recruiting at all. But if K-State wins that bowl game, they all of a sudden can be like, look at what we're doing as a program at Kansas State right now. That's where
Alabama loses to Kansas State. That is going to hurt them in recruiting.
It's not going to hurt them in recruiting.
Yes, it is.
It's not. Nick Saban has way too much credibility. It's not going to hurt them in recruiting.
Nick Saban's getting up there.
He is getting up there, but he's still one. Alabama could skip a recruiting class and still have enough talent for a while. Alabama's problem is not recruiting right now. It's that they got an offensive coordinator that Nick Saban is staying way too loyal to.
Oh God, I know.
Yeah.
Apparently does not have any more contract. It's over now.
Yeah, you should
contract
renew it.
Is up.
Yes.
Yes. Please do not renew that for the love of God. For everybody who likes college football and watching college football, you let Bryce Young go to waste.
Yes.
You literally let a filet mignon sit in your refrigerator and go to waste.
That is so true. You're right. Basically did nothing, and Bryce Young was trying to, he was bailing out the offense and the offensive coordinator throughout 2 seasons. And yeah, it was horrible to watch. It's embarrassing that he didn't get a national championship, and it's not his fault at all.
He did, but as a backup.
Oh yeah, that's right. As Mac Jones' backup. Yeah. As a starter, he didn't get one.
No, he did not, which is embarrassing.
Yeah.
For the amount of talent that you have, that is absolutely embarrassing.
It is.
There's a whole thing.
But I will grant you with Tennessee and Clemson, okay, maybe the players do owe to the program because Tennessee and Clemson, both teams need to win this game. And I don't know if people understand how much Clemson's rise has been because of Tennessee's fall. And I don't think the town's big enough for the two of them. I don't think the two programs can coexist as powerhouses because they compete for too many similar recruits. And this bowl game is huge because right now there's a narrative out there. See, this narrative doesn't exist with Alabama. This is why they're going to be fine in recruiting. With Clemson, it does. That they were a flash in the pan on a 6-year run and that they're now on a downward trend to a certain degree. That narrative's out there. The narrative's also out there that Tennessee's on the rise. Recruits are going to be paying attention to that. This bowl game could really solidify that narrative, or it could turn the narrative on its head and Clemson could be like, we're still Clemson. We're still the big boys on the block, and Tennessee, you're not here yet. So that's where a bowl game like this is a huge, huge deal. So in that, I might grant you with this, maybe with Tennessee, maybe the players should play, maybe Hyatt even should play. But with Alabama, no. It's Alabama. You guys are going to be fine. Alabama's going to be fine.
You can't rest on your laurels. You can't just say, well, it's Alabama, they're going to be fine. Because in 2 years, I mean, look at Clemson. It's Clemson 2 years ago. They're going to be fine. And now look at where they are.
A couple of things on that. Alabama, one, Nick Saban is a better overall coach than Dabo Swinney. Swinney had a run when the ACC was horrible. I mean, horrendous. But Swinney is not an X's and O's coach. Nick Saban, for whatever you want to say on defense, he's an X's and O's guy. That's Nick Saban's defense. It doesn't matter who the defensive coordinator is. He analytically handles everything on that side. He's Josh Heupel on offense at Tennessee. Now, so I think with Nick Saban, you always know you'll be okay. I also think that I don't consider it resting on laurels as much as it's Nick Saban saying, we got to figure out what we got behind Bryce Young and Will Anderson. We got to figure this out.
You should already know that because Bryce Young was out for a game and a half. So you should know what you have behind Bryce Young. And I know it's a game and a half, but still decisions are made, a lot quicker than a game and a half for a lot of quarterbacks. So you should know who you have. And you see, if Jalen Milroe is your backup, sorry, you don't have a lot. You need
then maybe maybe that gives you December to give Ty Simpson the first team reps.
I mean, yes, but I wouldn't start him in a bowl game against a decent team.
That'd be the best time to start a new quarterback. Just see what happens.
We saw that. We saw Tennessee do that to what poor kid. Is it Nathan Peterman? I can't remember.
When they started him against Florida in 2013.
Either him or it was somebody that they started against Alabama. It was somebody they started against
Alabama. Yeah, it was Peterman against Alabama. No, you're right. It was Peterman 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and it was just like he hadn't played a snap, and they stuck him in there, and I was like, dear God. Like,
Butch Jones would always make the quarterback change before it was confirmed. When it wasn't even clear, the starting quarterback maybe had not done enough to win, but didn't do enough to lose the job. But he would always make the quarterback change right before playing like the best defense of the year. And I think it was to save himself and set up his quarterback to fail. He did the same with Jared Garantano. He benched Quentin Dormady after the 41-0 loss to Georgia. Starts Jared Garantano against South Carolina. The 1 year South Carolina is good under Will Muschamp. And whatever else you think of Will Muschamp, he's a defensive genius.
Oh, I know. I mean, just angry as all get out. But, I mean, he looks like it. He's like the second coming of Chucky.
I thought John Gruden was that.
No, John Gruden's the first coming of Chucky. He's the real life Chucky.
Okay,
but Will Muschamp is the second one. It's like Chucky's little brother.
Seed of Chucky? Wasn't that a movie?
I didn't watch that because I had no idea. Like dolls can't kill you. I'm sorry. A thing that's this tall with a plastic knife is not going to be able to kill you. No realistic. I don't watch.
Those movies have more comedy than anything. But
yeah,
I like a lot of slasher films, though some are scary, some are not. I think all Friday the 13th movies are stupid because just don't go to that camp, guys. Get a brain and stop camping at the place where a serial killer lives.
And don't run outside your front door. Lock yourself in a closet. Don't run outside your front door. What are you doing? Stop it.
Exactly.
It's the stupidest thing.
Yeah, I agree. They always do the wrong thing.
I know. You're just screaming at the TV at that point. There's just no point to it. So, okay, well, we'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll finish this discussion about the NIL and whether players should opt out.
Has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. Inflation Calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Welcome back. So, the NIL, I think, has changed college football. I don't think it's changed it for the better, but then, here I am, old fuddy-duddy or whatever you like to say. But as far as bowl games, now that the NIL is in play, you should have to play your bowl game because that's what you sign up for. I don't know when, I guess I kind of know when. College turned from everyone loving college football because it was such a team sport to now it's an individual sport because of everything that's going on. Transfer portal. There's over 1,000 kids in the transfer portal. 1,000.
Well, yeah, and to be fair, we call it an individual sport, but this is not the most player-friendly thing ever because most of these kids that enter the portal, they forfeit their scholarship and they may not land somewhere else. So they may have just given up. They may not only will they have given up a football career, but they may have cost themselves a free education too. The top ones at the transfer portal can go wherever they want. But then there's the capitalist free market society argument. Do you take, should the players be allowed to take the risk? And
do you see they're doing it in high school now?
With transferring?
No, the NIL is in high school now.
Oh, the NIL is in high school now. Really?
TSSAA passed something about the NIL.
I mean, if we're being honest, kids are allowed to be child stars in Hollywood. If they can do that, they can make money playing football.
I mean, but really, like we're there's a reason why you as a parent will not want your kid to go to Hollywood. You don't want to taint them that early and bless a lot of other things, but
yeah,
I just don't agree with it.
Kids are allowed to make money in so many ways underage, and it's. I don't know. I think that this is one of those where if they can do it in high school, more power to them. I mean, heck, LeBron got an $80 million shoe deal before he ever went to the NBA. He got an $80 million shoe deal with Nike.
Yeah, but not like while he was playing in high school.
It was between high school and the NBA.
So he was done. He was done in high school. He was going to the NBA. So it's a little bit different. He was 18 years old. So he is legally an adult.
Look, I think more than stopping NIL, and this is what I just on a broader sense, I've always said this about, humanity, but we're better at regulating and managing things than we are at preventing them, if that makes sense. And we're not great at regulating or managing either, but I'm saying more than stopping NIL, I think there needs to be some federal legislation to regulate NIL. You agents can't target players. You can't mislead, on targeting, misleading. I don't know exactly how to figure it out. This is why you need a team of lawyers who can really craft the bill that would do this right to enforce it. It would probably be one of the few things that both sides agree on in Congress, funny enough. But yeah, I think something
Depends who's backing them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If these agents could just end up giving a lot of money to all of both sides. But I don't think agents have been I don't think they've been as smart as the insurance companies or oil companies or whatever. And I don't think they've thought yet that they need to buy Congress. So this is
it's a matter of time.
Yeah, that's true. But this is one where we might get lucky where Congress might craft a bill before they actually get bought off by the agent companies. And so, but something needs to be done, some sort of regulation to stop them from targeting high school kids, heck, even college kids. Not that the kids can't make money, but to make sure that, okay, you're allowed to do endorsements with kids, but you can't do X, Y, Z. You just can't do it no matter what. And
I'll find a way to get around it though. And it's annoying. I think the NIL, I disagree with the NIL. I don't disagree with paying players. I think players should get something in college. I think they should have money to go to buy a car. They should have money to be able to go out to eat. They should have money to go to the movies. They should have money to do all of that stuff. And people will say, yeah, they have it. They get paid under the table or whatever, which is fine. But it's still, if they get caught doing that, then they get in trouble. That shouldn't be a thing. So my thing with the NIL is I don't like that you're getting paid off your name, image, and likeness. I don't think that's a professional level kind of thing. And people are saying, well, the schools are making so much money off of these players, they should get something. The schools aren't paying the players. This is not, the schools aren't paying them. So that argument is null and void. The schools are not paying the players regardless. So it doesn't make any sense.
But think about how arbitrary it is, though, that only NCAA athletes can't make money off their name in college.
Mm-hmm.
If you do anything else in college, no matter what it is, and you get an endorsement, you can make money. If you write for if you write for the school paper, or if you're a researcher, or if you're whatever you might do, you can go make money on the side as an endorsement deal. I don't think the athletes should be I don't think we should do this. I mean, they're almost the NCAA fought for years to keep them as nameless faces, basically, and
should be nameless faces. But I also don't think you should be getting millions as a 19-year-old kid.
Maybe the regulation then would be that this money, you can get whatever you want, but a certain portion of it's going to be held in a trust fund, in a little fund, and you will be able to access it after you get out of college.
See, I think Dabo has it right. I think Nick Saban has it right, that it should be split evenly amongst the players you're playing. Because if it's the culture is more important, I believe, than the money at this point. Because if you're, building a culture that you're a team, you're a brotherhood, you're this, you go to battle. It doesn't matter who is, starting or who's not starting it. All that matters is that you're battling together as one. Then the money should be together as one.
Well, then if they're battling together as one and the money should be together as one, then Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney should split their money with the rest of the team.
They're the coaches. It's a little bit different, and they're paid by the universities.
I know they're actually not paid by the universities. Usually, they're usually paid by donor
through
money.
The universities, yes, but through the university.
Yes, it's a laughable concept that the donors aren't actually increasing their donations to make sure that Nick Saban and Dabo can get the high salaries. So, but if we're going as coaches, but that's the point. We're already placing a higher value on them as coaches. So we're already saying because they're the coach, they're the most important part. So it's understandable that they get paid more. Well, then the better players should get paid more. I mean, I'm sorry that Hendon Hooker made more NIL money than Jeremy Banks. He should have. Okay. If you're Tennessee,
I'm saying if you're trying to build that culture of brotherhood and everybody plays as one and there's no I in team and all of that stuff, then the NIL money should be adjust
I mean, that's anything in life,
accordingly.
though. Anything. I mean, the players need. Part of college is preparing players for life. You're going to be in a brotherhood with some people sometimes where other people are making more money than you. And I think soldiers are vastly underpaid in this country. Don't get like
Yes.
they should get way more benefits and paid a lot more. But there's ranks for soldiers in the military, and they make different pay. Doesn't matter when they go into battle together. They're still a brotherhood, but the person next to you might be making more than you when you're in battle. And so I'm sorry. I'm fully of the belief that they should. I think it should be regulated. I think it should be, and I wouldn't be opposed to something like saying you can't access this until you get out of college because for your own best interest, because we're going to be seeing stories in 10 years about athletes blowing all their money when
Well,
they
we
were in
see it
college.
all the time in the NFL. I mean,
All
Vince
the
Young's
time.
a huge
Huge
thing where he
example.
went bankrupt, and I mean, you see it all the time in the NFL. But
Oh yeah.
I guarantee you, these kids do not have that guidance.
No, and you would hope the colleges would give them some, but I mean, let's be honest, college football cares about the players as much as NFL franchises do. They care about what they can do for them in that moment.
Oh,
But
Orange
again,
Blood saying like, subscribe, and share, y'all. Yes, sorry, we forgot that. It takes a little
yes,
bit when Dave's not here.
we are not carrying Dave's water. We apologize, Dave, wherever you are.
Sorry. He's in Miami.
Yes, enjoying South Beach over the winter.
Lucky man. Okay, so speaking of things in college football that have gone to crap, let's talk about the Heisman.
Okay, I know you have strong feelings about it.
I do a little bit.
I do disagree. I probably would have given it to Max Duggan. I'm sorry, man. I don't really have a problem with Caleb Williams winning it, though.
I do, and we know why I have a problem with it, but my main issue, I have a problem with the voters. The voters are who I have a problem with.
Okay.
You went out like right after, not the championship games, but they opened voting the Monday after, Caleb Williams put on a show against, I think, Notre Dame. Was it Notre Dame?
Yes.
And then they cast their vote then, before the championship weekend. We all know that talking heads in college football have their favorites, and they promote them, and they dig deep, and they go from one guy to the next guy to the next guy to the next guy. They went from CJ Stroud to Hendon Hooker. Then Hendon Hooker got hurt. They jumped to Caleb Williams. So you're really voting on the flavor of the moment is what a lot of voters are voting on. And it makes me mad because Hendon Hooker should have won that award. He should have. And he got counted out because he got hurt. That South Carolina game he got hurt in. And that South Carolina game was a blowout, and you can't really. I don't even care. I don't care what people say. There's some back stuff going on because you don't turn from the defense we saw against or not really. It wasn't great defense, but you were playing as a team. You don't see that defense turn into a defense worse than Vanderbilt's overnight. Like, you don't see that happening. There's a reason that happened. But everybody, if Hendon Hooker shouldn't have won the award, he should have at least been in New York. He should have been in the top 3. And there are people on Twitter who have votes who are coming out and saying, this is who I voted for, and Hendon Hooker's in the top 3 every single time.
Yeah, I actually, so the most clear-cut one is Stetson Bennett did not deserve to go. Hendon Hooker should have been in that spot. All due respect to Stetson Bennett, I like, I have a hard time sometimes criticizing people I like, and I actually do like Stetson Bennett, but he shouldn't have been there.
No, absolutely not. There are 2 quarterbacks in the SEC that are better than Stetson Bennett, and they missed a game apiece, but still, 2 of them that are better than Stetson Bennett. Only reason Stetson Bennett went is because of what the front of his jersey says. It's the only reason.
It was somewhat of a lifetime achievement award for Stetson Bennett to go there. Similar, I'm with you. their Stetson Bennett should not have gone. It should have been Hendon Hooker. I hate it because he did get hurt. I can give you the Hendon Hooker one. I can kind of come around because honestly, if he had stayed healthy, he probably would have been the only clear-cut Heisman winner because quite honestly, just no one deserved the award this year. If we're going to be honest, there was nobody who deserved it.
There was no one player who just played lights out the whole time.
No. And so, and had Hendon Hooker been healthy the whole year, he probably would have been the only one who fit that mold. And I actually do think he might have won it, particularly with the way CJ Stroud looked that last week and then Caleb Williams the next week. I think Hendon Hooker would have ended up winning the award. As we know, Dave and I talked about this last week. I think you were on the show too. There is a massive recency bias with the Heisman Trophy. Massive. They so quickly cave to what they saw the last moment. They don't do their research.
No.
And so they kind of, and it's such a vibe with them because the standards change every single year with the Heisman with them. I mean, I'm never going, I still go back to 95, they gave it to Eddie George after losing to Michigan. 96, they give it to Danny Warfel after losing to Florida State. For anybody who wants to correct me, yes, Florida beat Florida State in the national title game. They lost in the regular season. The Heisman was before the title game, after the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave it to Danny Warfel after he loses to Florida. Then 97 comes Peyton Manning, and they're like, you know what? Let's hold that loss to his rival against him, which we've never done before as voters, ever. We've never held the loss to a rival against somebody before. But we're going to hold it against Peyton, and we're going to give it to the first defensive Heisman winner of all time. And, yeah, that happened. And then, there's just been so many things like that where they change their standards on a year-to-year basis. I wonder if Hooker was in more top threes than anybody, but didn't get any number one votes. And that's what hurt him. But if that happened, I want to know what you think, Amanda. Like, if that happened, the only way Stetson Bennett could have gotten in over him is if he did get number one votes. And who the heck gave Stetson Bennett the number one vote?
I didn't. I mean, I don't vote, but I know. That's the thing about it is you look at the real people who watch college football and who have the votes and look at their votes and compare them to the people who they just picked out of the blue. Like some of these people a lot of these people should not be a voter in this award because they don't watch college football. They don't even watch it. Some of these voters I've never even heard of. And it doesn't make any sense to me that they get a vote when they don't even participate in the sport that they're supposed to be voting on. And not participate as in play the sport, but participate in any kind of way, in college football, whether it's talking about it, whether it's, coaching it, whether it's whatever. They have nothing to do with it. And I don't understand it.
Yeah. And you see that with, look at the AP voters and the SEC coaches, both voted Hendon Hooker SEC Player of the Year. Somehow Stetson Bennett deserves the invite to New York over Hendon Hooker. And I'm with you. Bryce Young should have gone over Stetson Bennett. I mean, Hooker the most, but Bryce Young should have gone. I mean, you could have made a case that Will Anderson should have gone over Stetson Bennett, quite honestly. I mean, that's not far-fetched.
No, there's a lot of people you could have put over Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, exactly. Blake Corum at Michigan, another one who was a victim of getting hurt, basically. But if you looked at what he had done throughout, I mean, I guess the reason with Blake Corum is he got hurt and they blew out Ohio State after he got hurt. So it's like, who did Blake Corum actually run well against? Penn State was the only quality win for him, or the only quality game that he really played in. But
better than Stetson Bennett.
Exactly. So, I mean, and I think you're with me, right? We don't really want to pile on Stetson Bennett. We like him, decent guy.
Yeah. Decent. Did not, even in the pictures of the Heisman, when they were in New York, he was like the one sore thumb.
He was.
He was.
And it was so funny because I remember last year, Bryce Young had so much swag when he won the Heisman. Remember his outfit last year was like the coolest outfit of all theirs.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was a little bit different from Stetson Bennett, who was, it was, that was rough to watch there. I wouldn't say this was the most undeserved Heisman Trophy of all time. I'm still on, there was a period from like 97 to 2001 where every one of them was questionable. Charles Woodson, Ricky Williams, Ron Dane. Don't Google it. People on the side, if you're younger than 30, I doubt you know who Ron Dane is. But
Don't Google it.
Yeah. Chris Winkie, who beat out Josh Heupel, funny enough, and then Eric Crouch, who also, if you're younger than 30, you'd be shocked to hear that Rex Grossman should have won any award, but he should have won the 2001 Heisman Trophy that year. Should have gone to Rex Grossman. He said every record.
Are you done with the Heisman now after this?
Yeah, I've been done with the Heisman for years. Only because of what I've talked about. I see how they change their standards every year. And then I went back in history and saw how they change their standards every year. I think Tennessee should pull up. Like, do you remember when T.O. finally got inducted into the Hall of Fame? And it was so clear the voters waited to the last minute.
Yes.
And he's like, you know what? I'm just not showing up. I'm going to show you guys up. I think Tennessee should set a policy secretly that no player who is a finalist for the Heisman is allowed to show up in New York for that. We'll just take you on a trip to New York on your own. I think they should purposely one day try to show up the Heisman Trophy.
Maybe go to New York during the ceremony. Don't even go to the ceremony and just have like a live view from them, like going downtown and like waving.
And don't tell them you're going to do that so the voters don't screw you. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be hilarious if a Tennessee player won and that happened. And I think Tennessee should do that because Tennessee has 4 Heisman Trophy runner-ups. 4 and no Heismans. That's not normal. There's some shadiness. 3 of the Heisman Trophy winners, and I wrote this last week on a post for Off the Hook. 3 of the Heisman Trophy winners, the person Tennessee lost to made history as the winner. Charles Woodson, the only defensive player to win it in 97. Paul Hornung in 1956, still to this day, is the only player for a losing team to win the Heisman Trophy. And 1951, Hank Larcella lost it to a guy from Princeton. That guy remains the last Ivy League Heisman Trophy winner. So it's been a curse for Tennessee.
So Orange Blood asking, will any position other than a QB win a Heisman again? Yes, I believe that there will be another. I mean, look at Devontae Smith at Alabama. He won the Heisman.
Yep.
I did not feel that was really a strong Heisman year. He was good. Don't get me wrong. Devontae Smith's good. But as a wide receiver, it's hard for me to argue that you should be a Heisman winner. It just is. Wide receivers, I don't understand because I feel like the quarterback is doing a lot, for you to win that award.
Yeah, there's only a select few wide receivers who I think make quarterbacks. Could you argue Devontae Smith did that for Mac Jones? Maybe. I don't know if I would go there. Like I would say like NFL related, Randy Moss allowed Dante Culpepper to have a career.
Megatron.
Yes, Megatron. Although Matthew Stafford, I think, was a pretty good quarterback though.
Yeah, but Megatron. If there was no Megatron in Detroit, dear God.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would have been disastrous because
yeah.
But yeah, like I think Randy Moss and Dante Culpepper, because I think Dante Culpepper was hot garbage outside of Randy Moss, who those 7 years in Minnesota. I still say, I don't care what anybody says. I say it all the time. I'll take Randy Moss's 7 years in Minnesota over any receiver ever. Don't come at me with Jerry Rice. Don't come at me with Michael Irvin. Don't come at me with anybody. I want those 7 years of Randy Moss in Minnesota. But so I don't know if Devontae Smith was kind of like that in college. I think 2015 when Derrick Henry won it, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Titans fan, but that one was pretty fair for a non-quarterback to win it because Derrick Henry was just ripping the SEC to shreds that year.
Yeah, agreed. He's a once in 10 year kind of player, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, but.
And I get people complaining why the quarterback always wins it, but guys, it's a new age of football. And I mean, nowadays, over the last 20 years, I think we would agree the quarterback has so much more of an impact on the game than they used to. And it's such a quarterback-driven league in the NFL and college. And if you are a team that doesn't rely on the quarterback as much, it's because you're loaded with so much talent elsewhere that there's no standout individual. And so it becomes hard to really pick a Heisman winner. I mean, like, on defense, we talk about it all the time. I know we talk about Will Anderson, but the fact of the matter is, no matter what, another team can run away from Will Anderson. He can't really. There's no possible way for an edge rusher to dictate a game.
He can't cover the whole field.
Exactly, he can't. And so there's really nothing you can do. I think the only time a quarterback won it, the last time a quarterback won it, where I don't think it should have gone to a quarterback, I mean, might have been, and this is nothing on him, but it would have been 2007, because you had a case for Tim Tebow, but God, Darren McFadden was so good that year. Darren McFadden should have won it one of those years in 06 or 07 when Troy Smith and Tim Tebow won it. And so that would have been the last time that I would say that a quarterback won it that didn't deserve it. And then Carson Palmer in 2002 should have gone to Willis McGahee. Willis McGahee should have won the Heisman in 2002. 2004, when Matt Leinart won it, I was a big Cadillac Williams fan, but those were all a little bit different. I don't hate the Jason White win in 2003 as much as a lot of people do.
Yeah. So Orange Blood, will any position other than a quarterback win the Heisman again? I think it will, but it's going to have to be, I feel like college football is constantly changing, evolving. The reason why we haven't seen, obviously, a running back win it in like 6 years is because the ground and pound is gone now. So it's going to have to be with a different offense evolving something. And maybe like you could see like a Jalen Hyatt win it. Somebody like that. But the quarterback's just too important now. It's just too important of a position where if you see a different position come out and dominate like a quarterback does, then I could see that happening. But at the moment, probably not. Okay, so coming up next, we will do we'll visit the bowl games and see what we have coming up.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Welcome back. I know we said we were going to talk about the bowl games, but Caleb, do you want to get a little, give us a little info on Tennessee hoops and their big win over Maryland?
Yeah, this is a huge win. Tennessee beat Maryland 56-53 last night. I hope you guys listened to me yesterday when I said take the under and take Maryland to cover, but Tennessee will win. Hit all three, baby. That's right. It's you got, for the record, spread was 5.5. So you know how much of a risk it was for me to take Maryland to cover, but Tennessee to win at the same time?
Yeah.
And,
5.5 points.
Yep. And then and and I took the under. That was the easiest call. You have two great defensive coaches in Rick Barnes and Kevin Willard. Maryland was undefeated until last Wednesday, but that loss was on the road to Wisconsin, so there was nothing wrong with that. Tennessee was up by about 21 in the first half. Maryland fought back, made it a game in the second half, and Tennessee had to hold on to win 56-53. I don't think Tennessee should apologize for that. Basketball is a game of runs. Sometimes you win sometimes you're up by 20. The next minute you find yourself locked in a tight battle. Basketball, when it's two good teams, they can get red hot, and Maryland got hot in the second half. They were playing in Brooklyn, which it was basically Maryland country. Lots of Maryland fans were at the game, so it was almost a road game for the Vols. And so for them to hold on to win without Jonas Adu, you got to give them credit for that. Kind of an ugly win. Definitely not the type of win that it's not the way you want to win, in the sense of, the only thing I would say critically is you can't win playing ugly in March. Amanda, one of my big pet peeves of March Madness is that, the phrase defense doesn't win championships goes out the window in March Madness. Because the fact of the matter is, I don't care how great your team is defensively, if you can't score, you're going to run into one of those small schools that has like 4 guys that are 6 feet, and all they do is shoot from 3, and they're just going to hit everything.
Yep. You run into a Davidson, basically.
Exactly.
And Steph Curry was there, just banking threes.
Exactly. Crazy. And there was no possible way to defend that at all. And so that's my thing with March Madness. But Amanda, the SEC is looking really, really good in basketball. There are 4 elite teams, maybe 5 with Auburn, although they just lost to Memphis.
Thanks, Auburn. I bet on that game. I took Auburn over Memphis.
Oh,
the spread. I took the spread and lost.
I feel like Memphis covered Auburn's spread, didn't they?
Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah, it's Tennessee's definitely the highest ranked of the SEC teams right now, but you're right, Alabama may take it, but you got Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Auburn all in the top 20. And until Auburn's loss, that's going to change things. But until then, funny enough, Kentucky was the worst of those. Right? I think right now the class of the SEC is Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas right now.
Yeah. When did those schools become basketball schools?
Well, so Arkansas did win the national title in '94 with Nolan Richardson. So they had
I was 8.
Yeah, I was 6. But they had 40 minutes of hell where they just pressed you nonstop for 40 minutes, and it was a great story. Nolan Richardson was the first Black coach in the SEC, won the national title. It was a heck of a time to be from Arkansas because you had a president from Arkansas at the time, and I mean, Alabama and Tennessee have had runs, and Auburn, they've all had runs, but yeah, they've never been like, you're right. I mean, those 4 all ahead of Kentucky you don't hear of.
No.
So that's
the
intriguing thing. But yeah, no, Tennessee and Alabama, that's going to be Tennessee and Alabama. They're kind of on a crash course for what might be a top 5 matchup, guys, in February.
And is it that game here or is it in Tuscaloosa?
It's in Knoxville. It's at Thompson Bowling. And
expensive.
Yep, it's a tough 2-game road stand. Alabama plays at Auburn 4 days before that, and then they go and play at Tennessee. So, a lot of fun happening early in basketball. Tennessee has about 6 days off, and Tennessee's got another top 10 matchup happening this weekend because they're going to visit Arizona on Saturday. And Arizona right now is number 10. Tennessee's number 7. I would imagine both teams are going to move up in the polls after this. I don't know how Tennessee's still below Kansas. Both teams have 1 loss, and Tennessee beat Kansas by 14 in the battle for Atlantis. Wait, what is that?
I just saw that.
Okay. Amanda, you want to read what happened? I'll pull it up. I'll look it up.
Look it up. So it says, the head coach at Texas got charged with felony assault this morning. Okay, the head coach for football or basketball?
Looks like the head coach for basketball, Chris
Okay, not
Beard. He's
Sark.
the one who took Texas Tech to the Final Four a couple of years ago.
Not a good
Wow.
look.
No, that's not a good look. Domestic
That-
violence charges.
Verified?
Let's see. Texas coach Chris, according to CBS, Chris Beard arrested on third-degree assault charges against family member.
Oh.
Wow. And for the record, this is relevant, guys, because am I not mistaking on this? No, I am. I'm sorry. I for some reason was thinking Tennessee plays Texas this year, but I think that was because they played last year. No, they do play Texas. They do play Texas. Yeah, they play Texas at home on January the 28th. And Texas is ranked second right now, and Texas is Rick Barnes' old school.
Yeah.
And Tennessee got robbed at Texas last year. So that's huge, guys. Pay attention to what happens with that Chris Beard felony assault charges. He had really restored Texas basketball, honestly, after the Shaka Smart situation didn't really work out as well as they thought. So felony assault charges. We don't know too much. We'll see what all goes into that. I love doing the show and having news break when we're doing the show.
I know. What is felony? Okay. I need to see what third-degree felony assault means. Because I get confused with the degrees.
Yeah.
So I don't. Okay. Let me look and see. Third-degree assault, reckless infliction of fear of serious bodily injury or recklessly causing a fear of injury through the use of a deadly weapon. What?
Okay, so is that like does that mean like not physically harming them, but threatening to and holding a weapon against them? And
I guess it is the least serious form of assault. So
okay. But
not great, but I mean,
yeah, still not a good look at all.
there was not a hostage situation or something, so
right.
not great.
So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. Accused of strangulation, according to Alyssa Gray. Wow. Okay, she's coming in with, or she or he, whoever you are. Let's say you are coming in with some hot ones right now. Yeah, I would say that. Let's see. He alleged. Okay, according to yes, according to local reports, Austin American Statesman is saying that he strangled a person at a home in the Austin neighborhood of Terrytown, which would be his home. So, well,
yeah, that's whew. I mean,
well,
but
let's
again, I wait until all the stuff comes out because you never know. It could have been, somebody. I'm not saying this is happening, but somebody threatened his daughter or something, and it was a guy. I don't know if he has a daughter, but
yeah,
I wait before I pass judgments on stuff like that because, like with the whole, give me his name because it just flew out my head. This year, Tennessee player. That whole charge that he got.
Jalen McCullough.
Thank you. With that whole thing, at first it looked really bad. It was, oh my gosh, he did this and, felony assault and all this other stuff. And then it got dismissed because, that was clearly not his fault and somebody tried to break in his house twice.
Yeah.
So I save judgment for that.
I agree. And there's, people think this shouldn't be applied. I'm sorry. We all apply it and it should be applied. That this doesn't mean you should pass judgment, but it should lead to what you think is likely. So for instance, if Rick Barnes was accused of this, my instinct would be to not believe it at first. I'm sorry. Rick Barnes has just had too good of a track record of being too good of a guy for too long for something like that to happen. Similar to in football, we had no problem believing when the story came out that Hendon Hooker and Jeremy Banks had a fight. We were all like, yeah, it's obviously Jeremy Banks' fault. Hendon Hooker's not going to wrongly start a fight. We all know that. And so
He has a freaking my brain doesn't work.
Children's
I've
comic
realized
book.
that. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
He has a comic. There's a reason. There's a good reason that my brain doesn't work right now. But this is a
Yeah.
very good reason. But my brain does not work. It's very true what they say.
Yeah.
So,
So like I didn't even need to know that it was about NIL. I'm like, okay, Hendon Hooker and Jimmy Banks got into a fight and Joe Milton broke it up. Joe Milton broke it up. Jimmy Banks started it. Like, that's all I need to know. I didn't need to know the reasons.
yeah.
I've got their track records. It's pretty obvious to look at what happened. Don't know Chris Beard's history, so you're right. We'll stay out of it. I'll stay out of it for right now. There are some people, even some coaches. If I find out Hugh Freeze is doing some shady stuff at Auburn, guess what? I'm not going to be shocked.
No, I'll believe that. If it comes out, oh, Hugh Freeze, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care how ugly the story is. I'm going to believe it.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a person I think lower of than him. So,
It's down there.
Yeah.
Down there.
Isn't it sad? Because you were right, and you brought up earlier this year. It's like you had a Hendon Hooker this year who, you're right, is such a great representative. If you are a person of faith, if you are a Christian, Hendon Hooker is such a great representative of that. And then you have Hugh Freeze, who's just throws Bible verses in everybody's face. And it's like you go from Hendon Hooker, who's leaving. Now you got Hugh Freeze, and then you look at a Hugh Freeze and you're like, this is why, unfortunately, people leave religion, because they look at a guy like Hugh Freeze throwing it in their face all the time, and then he's such a just despicable human. I believe anything about him, and I'll just say that outright. I would. And similar to the way I believed every accusation of cheating and shadiness that was levied against Bobby Petrino after the Arkansas scandal. I'm like, I'm sorry, I believe them all. You're not going to convince me otherwise. So sticking with basketball, I just wanted to jump into Lady Vols real quick. We talked about health issues. The Lady Vols are over 500 for the first time. They've had a really rough start to the year, but Amanda, Tamari Key, their star center, is out for the year due to blood clots in her lungs.
God bless.
Yeah, and that's dangerous situation. That's what Trey Smith dealt with at Tennessee a couple of years ago. It's nothing to mess with. I don't know if I'm not familiar with health, expertise at all. I don't know how much you are, but I assume nowadays they have ways to allow you to live a full life and play sports with an issue like that. I don't know.
A lot of it, I think, is blood thinners. Like, they'll put you on stuff like that to maybe get rid of the clotting issue, or they'll figure out why you're clotting and all that other stuff, and they'll work on that. But at the moment, it is not a good situation, until that's all figured out. Then I think her being out for the season is the best bet. Hopefully they'll figure it out and get her on medication or what have you to fix the problem. But until that happens, it's really sad because she's so young. Like, you see this happening more and more, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, these kids are so young. Like, how are we having all these problems?
Right. You're starting to question if, workout routines and stuff are starting too early for athletes now, and because they keep getting to college more and more athletic, in football, more freakishly athletic. That's just, it's not natural to be that big and that fast.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. And I started working out when I was 11.
Oh, okay.
So I was building muscle at that point, but I was also doing gymnastics and softball and cheerleading and, all that. So it's a lot more.
Interesting on a basketball front with Danny White, Tennessee's athletic director. It doesn't look like Rick Barnes is going anywhere, but Kelly Harper could be on the hot seat if this season doesn't work out as well. One of the benefits of Tennessee hiring Danny White is Danny White has made some very successful hires at other places that have already proven themselves to a certain degree. Alabama's got one of them in men's basketball, Nate Oates. Danny White's the one who discovered him. There is, and just in case people are curious, if Kelly Harper doesn't work out, there is, I want just everybody to Google this when you get the chance. There is a head coach of Syracuse right now by the name of Felicia Leggett-Jack. and Danny White hired her as head coach of the Buffalo Bulls back in 2012, and she turned Buffalo into a fixture in the NCAA tournament. She is probably the best, most underrated coach out there. To be fair, she played at Syracuse, so I don't know if she would leave Syracuse for Tennessee, but that's your alma mater versus the premier job in women's basketball. I think so. It's this is just throwing this out there. I think we all love Kelly Harper and want her to work out because she's a great person, great coach, but a great person. Sometimes great people just don't work out as head coaches, and that's the toughest part of sports, Amanda, particularly if it's a person who played for you that was a legend. You don't want to have to fire them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, Tennessee's just in a tough spot because there's not going to be another Pat Summitt. There's just not. And I think everyone's going to be constantly compared to her. And I think this is going to happen whenever you lose, a coach either retires or you lose them or what have you. Like Coach K, everyone's going to be compared to him at Duke. When Nick Saban leaves Alabama, everybody's going to be compared. That is a big yardstick, basically.
There is.
So I'm not saying Tennessee fans should get, used to not having someone like Pat Summitt there, should settle for less. But I'm saying it's really hard to replace somebody like that.
And women's basketball women's basketball has just changed since then. I mean, when Pat Summitt was coming around, Tennessee was one of the few schools embracing Title IX. So that was why you had the Lady Vols. It was Lady Vols, Louisiana Tech, and later UConn. There's a lot more parity. You're not going to get – I think the days of coaches winning 3 and 4 national championships in a row in women's basketball are over. UConn hasn't won one since 2016. And so – which karma, Gino Auriemma, out of sheer pettiness, leaving Candace Parker off the Olympic team in 2016, the year Pat Summitt dies, when Candace Parker was clearly the best player, all out of pettiness because she didn't commit to UConn, and he hasn't won a national title since then. So I got nothing.
So sad for him.
I'm sorry?
That's so sad for him.
Yeah, I know. Not just because I cover Tennessee. I got nothing but negative thoughts about Gino Auriemma too.
I like it when I watch you, if you call it karma, if you call it, God, whatever you call the people who get what they deserve. I do enjoy it. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy watching it happen. Is that bad? Does that make me a bad person? Probably, but
no, I enjoy watching karma too. I enjoy watching things fall apart for people that, rub, if you're going to rub someone's nose in your greatness and then, or, really just be totally arrogant. Yeah. Watching a fall is hilarious. And Gino Auriemma falling like that is funny. But yeah, I think Tennessee is going to have to accept that you're not going to get, Alabama at least did get a repeat of Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. You're never going to get a repeat of Pat Summitt because it's going to be, it's impossible for women's, Pat Summitt herself couldn't do what Pat Summitt did nowadays in women's basketball. If she were around, it's impossible. And so I think the one thing Tennessee, one of the things, there are certain points of pride I think the Lady Vols take over others, and I get it. I think there was a few years ago when Holly Warlick was forced out, there were some rumors of Scott Walls, the Louisville coach, coming, who was a great head coach. You're going to have to pay a good bit to get him, and it just would have looked real bad for Tennessee, the essence of women's basketball, to fire Pat Summitt's successor and then go hire a male coach and pay him more than you paid Pat Summitt's successor when you first hired her. That just would have you can't do that at Tennessee. I'm sorry. And
yeah.
So, but look, maybe Harper works out. Been a rough start, but she could really get things going. But I think it's time to start talking about that. But
yeah,
that's basketball news. We got bowl season starting this week, Amanda.
Yes, I'm so excited. Sorry. I like bowl season because I like to watch teams. And this is, I think, why I like people not sitting out for the bowl game and actually playing. Not only because you're getting paid already, but because your team sometimes needs you. But just as a consumer of college football, I want to see the best players out there. To be honest, who doesn't want to see the best players out there? Everyone does.
That's true.
So who do we have this week, Caleb?
Well, we got a few. So starting on Friday at 11:30 in the morning, which God help the people on the West Coast.
Yeah, God bless you. Yeah.
But I don't know anybody who lives in California who's a Miami, Ohio, or UAB fan. But luckily, but you got Miami, Ohio, and UAB in the Bahamas Bowl. UAB is an 11-point favorite. I think UAB just hired Trent Dilfer as head coach, didn't they?
They did, from Lipscomb in Nashville.
Yes, that's correct. I think UAB is I'm from Memphis, and I've seen what's happened with the Memphis Tigers in football the last 10 years. They've really turned a corner. I think UAB could be one of those new sleeping giants. There's a lot. Amanda, you know the lay of Alabama more than I do. I think there's a lot of talent in Alabama, and there's great coaching in North Alabama too.
Yeah, I think, and especially with a name like Trent Dilfer, that's a name people know, from TV, really. I mean, honestly, it's a name people know. So anytime you put a name like that with a program that is doing good things and kind of up and coming and has the talent level, it gets scary for others.
I agree. I could easily see, and I think they're going to be I think they're joining the American Athletics soon. I think they're one of the new teams that's going to join. So that could be an intriguing one to watch. The other small Alabama school that's in Division I is playing on Friday too. Troy is playing Texas San Antonio. Oh, for the record, I just want to say UAB, I think, is an 11-point favorite against Miami, Ohio. In the Trading Cure Bowl in Orlando, Texas San Antonio and Troy are playing, and Troy is a 1-point favorite in that one. That's a top 25 matchup. Texas UTSA is number 25 in the college football playoff, and Troy is number 24. Who would have seen that?
That is crazy.
I know.
What?
Yes. And for the record, as the week gets closer, we're going to do some coverage on some gambling picks for this. Now with Sports Gambling Legal, it's going to make bowls that mean nothing a lot more fun.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And then, so Saturday, you actually get your first SEC bowl game on Saturday, funny enough, which is not that normal, but Florida is going to play Oregon State in Vegas in the Las Vegas Bowl.
That should be interesting.
It should. What's funny about it is Oregon State has, don't look now because everybody's talking about Oregon, but Oregon State's been slowly building a decent program out there right now. They won't ever be Oregon. I think they know what they are, but
right.
Jonathan Smith is in his, I want to say, 5th year there, and they've been getting better every year. So watch out. And I know Dave's not. I don't know where you land, Amanda. I actually am a believer in Billy Napier long term.
I just see Aaron Hernandez every time I look at him. That's all I see is Aaron Hernandez. I don't know why. I just see it.
That's so unfair.
I can't unsee it. I'm sorry.
So that's why you don't believe in him long term? You think he's Aaron Hernandez's doppelganger?
Well, he is Aaron Hernandez's doppelganger. No, I haven't been incredibly impressed by his coaching this year. I've seen him make some questionable calls that I don't really understand. Like the people going for 2 points or what. That's one thing that drives me nuts about football. Don't go for a 2-point conversion when you don't have to. You shouldn't be going for it in the first quarter. That's stupid. What are you doing?
So when he did it against Tennessee, believe it or not, I'm a big analytics guy. So I believed in it and I agreed with it, funny enough. I understood what his thought process was to go for 2 in those 2 moments. The idea was, if you're going to need 2 touchdowns and a field goal, you might as well go for 2 on one time and go for the win with the field goal, because the odds work against you in overtime.
At a difference, yes.
And so I know it's crazy. I believe in it more in the NFL because, since they've moved the extra point back, I think coaches should be going for 2 all the time in the NFL.
I think you're counting your chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, but if you look at 2-point conversions, I think convert 45% of the time, and extra points convert I don't know the exact numbers, don't get me wrong, but the analytics show that if you go for 2 every time and you kick an extra point every time, you'll end up with more points if you go for 2, because Now, because the extra points move back, you're going to miss some extra points every now and then. And so
in the NFL, yes, but in college, I mean,
yeah, I think Napier's I think Napier was thinking he didn't, even if he did come back and tie it up, he didn't want to play Tennessee in overtime. He didn't want it to go to overtime with that crowd at Neyland Stadium.
yeah.
So Billy kind of reminds me, and Amanda, don't get mad at me for saying this, but
Please do not say it's Saban.
2007 Saban at Alabama, this Florida season was very similar to that one. If you remember, Saban really stumbled in November that year. He lost to a bad Mississippi State team and a bad Louisiana Monroe team, lost 4 straight in the year, finished 6-6, still went bowling. And then next year, we know what happened. Now, I will give you, I don't see Florida's recruiting going the same way that Saban's did. But you're in Florida, and they're not recruiting poorly right now. I mean, they still got if I'm not mistaken, they got the number 11 ranked recruiting class. But I will give you that, as we know, you're in the SEC. You need the number 3 or 4 class in the SEC, particularly if you're about Jimmy's and O's over X's and O's, which Billy Napier is.
I think Billy Napier's in a tougher time. Also, it's a tougher time than Nick Saban would had in 2007. The climate of college football is tougher. You have to compete with a lot of different things now. Transfer portal, NIL. That's two things Saban didn't have to compete against in 2007. So
you're right. That's a very good point. Also, Nick Saban's biggest competition in the West at the time was LSU, and fortunately for him, LSU was led by brain dead Les Miles. So Florida, Oregon State, that's going to be an interesting one. Oregon State's favored by 10. Last year's college football playoff crasher, Cincinnati also plays on Saturday. They play Louisville. For you who aren't interested, Cincinnati and Louisville used to be a huge rivalry. I wish they could be in the same conference still. That Cincinnati, Louisville, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, like that little group right there, just like they're all big. They all should be in one conference. But Cincinnati, Louisville, that the line for that is even. Funny enough, Luke Fickell just left.
Yeah, for Wisconsin.
Yep. So we got 4 other bowl games that day: Washington State and Fresno State. That's going to be the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. That's in SoFi Stadium. You got Rice and Southern Miss in the Lending Tree Bowl. Apparently Rice was one of those teams that had a losing record, but APR got them into a bowl game because there was an open spot. Southern Miss is the team that can somehow every Mississippi politician has ties to, so they do shady stuff. I could not believe you risk going to jail for Southern Miss.
Hey, people have gone to jail for dumber things, so
that's true. Maybe Brett Favre will, upgrade the stadium with some Mississippi taxpayer monies. This game's in Mobile, so
we'll see.
Then we've got a couple more. We've got SMU and BYU at 7:30 that evening. That's kind of 2 powerhouse programs in the 80s. BYU won a national championship by default that year, and we know about SMU and the Pony Excess story.
Yep.
And then North Texas and Boise State in the Frisco Bowl and at Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas at 9:15 Saturday night. So the fun starts.
Thank goodness. Okay, so that is our show for today. Thank you for joining us. And we did not do today in Tennessee sports history. I'm sorry, Brittany, we don't have the spreadsheet. Dave did not give it to us before he left. So if you want to send it, please feel free. Thank you guys for being with us, and we will see you tomorrow at 8:30 a.m.